This morning on Today's Health, how stress can impact your memory. It's a good news, bad news situation. Sometimes the kids are fighting, you're late for work, and that's when you can't find your car keys. But other times, when it comes to giving that presentation you've been losing sleep over for weeks, you might just hit it out of the park. Well, intern is Dr. Keri Peterson, is a contributor to Women's Health magazine, and she's here to help us figure out why. Good morning.
Good morning, Ann.
So first of all, show us exactly how the brain remembers things.
Think of the brain like a switchboard. So you have your telephone, which is like the cells of the brain, the neurons, connecting with all these wires to another telephone, and these wires are called dendrites. And when we try to remember something, these wires communicate with each other, and if we want to try to retain it, they get thicker and stronger.
Okay, so we're looking at the graphic now, and you're seeing that those little explosions, and the little pieces then are becoming bigger and stronger.
Those little stars are the cells of the brain, and those things that look like strings are the dendrites of the brain. And when they're lighting up, that's when we're trying to recall a memory. So if wherever it's stored in the brain, it sort of lights up, and then we remember it.
And with a little bit of stress, we're trying to recall a memory. It's amazing how much we can suddenly remember because of a little stress. There's actually a sweet spot.
There is. This is kind of neat.
Moving beyond the sweet spot, things start to fall apart.
Exactly. So as stress increases and our adrenaline's released, we get more alert, our memories get more crisp, we get more sharp. But as stress continues to go up, then we've all experienced this. You get this point where you get frazzled, overwhelmed, and your memory just takes a nosedive. So for each person, there's sort of this sweet spot where your alertness goes up to a point and then it can go down.
Okay, you've got 3 categories of stress you want to talk about this morning. One of them is acute stress.
Yes.
And this is like when somebody gives you some bad news suddenly.
Exactly.
And you respond.
Exactly. Acute stress is sudden in onset, comes on quickly, and it leaves quickly. Like, for example, if your boss calls you into his office and you get fired.
Oh, how does it affect the brain?
So what's unique is acute stress, like we sort of talked about, enhances your memory initially, but this is only for men. With women, it's a little different. It depends on where you are in your menstrual cycle. So what's interesting, when women ovulate, their estrogen levels go up as if they're preparing for pregnancy. During that period of time, stress does not give you the memory boost that it does for men. And then once you menstruate and your estrogen levels go down, you get that memory boost again. So it's sort of like estrogen protects you against the effects of stress, for better or for worse.
For worse being that you can't remember a thing. Now we suddenly understand why we couldn't remember anything when we got pregnant. Okay.
Exactly.
So there's a biological reason, people. Okay, now moving on to the second category, and that's chronic stress. This is kind of stress that you're having to endure for several weeks at a time.
Exactly.
So what would the impact on the brain be?
With chronic stress, men do not do as well as women. So with men, when they're under conditions of continual stress, continual bathing of the brain with stress hormones, their neurons lose the ability to communicate effectively. And they can't retain memories, they can't recall memories as easily. Whereas for women, the reverse is true. When we are faced with chronic stress, we do very well on memory tests. And it's actually kind of makes sense because as men and women adapted through time, in ancient times, men were the hunters. They had to go out there and kill the animals, worry about getting killed. So that's the acute stress that they learned to adapt to. Whereas for women, we were the caretakers, stayed home with the children.
Which is why we can endure weeks and weeks and months of intense stress of raising children and still maintain our memory.
Yes.
Traumatic stress is the third category. That's just not good. That is, you actually see shrinkage in parts of the brain.
Correct.
Of areas that you don't want to, so the quick question then is, I think the last question is, what is your best advice on relieving stress so that we don't have these negative impacts?
The best thing that you can do really is to exercise regularly. Exercise reduces the stress hormones and increases endorphins, so you have this mood elevation. Other things to do, meditation, yoga, and deep breathing, very helpful.
So bottom line, all of them help you breathe deeper. Dr. Keri Peterson, thank you so much for some good advice.